Yamalis, welcome back to the Naked Mennonite. I am your host, Stephen Harder. So nice to have you with us here today, where we are answering yet another question asked of me by a local conservative evangelical pastor in the community who just wants to understand queer atheists a little bit better. And I am all too happy to shed some light and illuminate him on the topic. Today, a local pastor wants to know, what is the most hurtful thing that's been said/done to you by a Christian since coming out? And again, thank you, local pastor, for providing these questions, and especially this one. I know it's tempting to only want to see people from your side of the fence as the perfect paragons of virtue, especially when that is your calling by the Most High, and it can be difficult to ask those questions and reveal what actually are our imperfections. So I really do appreciate that. The answer that comes to my mind is an interaction I had with the executive director of a missions organization I was involved with for a couple years. During my teens and 20s, I was deep into the faith because that was my only source of community. And being involved in missions was just one of the ways that manifested. And it was during that time, it was in my 20s, I confided in the executive director of this small missions organization that I was involved with about my sexual proclivities, my struggles, my temptations with homosexual lust. And he was kind. He was understanding. He didn't condemn me, but he too, just like me, wanted to see me free from these shackles, and he would be involved in whatever way he could to help me experience that freedom. And I think it is important to note that he wasn't planting those seeds of homophobia in me. He was just watering them. He was just affirming that message that this is something that I should be ashamed of, that this is a problem with me, and that God can help me overcome it. And for 20 years, I tried to overcome those struggles, those temptations. Believe you me, I did everything I could to live the way that I was told that the Bible wanted me to live. And I did everything that I could to be that man that I was told that God wanted me to be. And finally, after 20 years of struggle, I finally realized that, you know what? I need to just love and accept myself where I am. I don't need to be this thing that other people are saying that I should be. I can just love myself here and now. And that was the beginning of my coming out process. And it was obviously, it was hard on me. It was hard on me to lose so much in that process. It was hard on my wife to lose so much in that process. But what really got me was the toll that it took on my kids for me to lose so much in that process. I set a really high bar for myself when it comes to parenting, and it's hard. It's hard to try to clear that hurdle and just have it smack you right in the forehead. It's hard to feel like you're failing your kids by not obtaining that perfect gold star standard that you set for yourself. So it's one thing for me to say, hey, these are the cards that I'm dealt, and I'm going to play them the best way that I know how, and I'm going to roll with the punches. But it's something else for me to say, kids, I'm not going to be able to be, you're not going to have that perfect family that I want to give you. It sucks that they had to get dragged in to be affected by the weight of this coming out experience. And I could not ignore the role that these Christian men that I looked up to, respected, admired, the role that they played in that toxic cycle, because I didn't get to that place where I was on my own. There were other men who helped me reach that place. And I was very curious to know what would happen. What would their response be if I presented them with the reality that I'm living in? So I reached out to the executive director of that mission organization. And I made a very specific point to be as cordial and congenial and convivial as possible. Because obviously, if I'm just coming here to lay blame and point fingers and throw mud, it's going to go nowhere fast. But I wanted to lay out the situation as honestly and as vulnerably as I could. And I explained to him that, again, I know that he didn't sow those seeds within me, but he did play a role in watering those seeds. And I wish that someone in his position, someone that I admired, respected, looked up to, instead of encouraging me not to accept myself, would have just told me that I was enough as I was, that I didn't need to change, that I didn't need to be someone else. But because I didn't have that voice in my life, I continued down this path. And now it's my kids who have to pay the price, in addition to my wife, in addition to me. And if only someone had modeled true love and acceptance, maybe I could have spared them some of that. And he replied back, and his response quite simply was, "I'm sorry, God didn't heal you according to your timetable." And I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't be shocked. My empathy is just too great. He was a missionary kid, born and raised on the missions field, and he's involved in missions now. So, of course, he was raised in a closed-minded environment where his empathy is going to be stunted. He was raised in an environment where I am wrong, full stop, and he owes me nothing. He has total license to be cold and cruel, because that's the price of the gospel. That's the price that God demands of his loyal servants. And it sucks. It sucks to have someone that you used to admire, minimize, ignore, punch you when you're taking the opportunity to be vulnerable with them. To reflect back and come to someone and say, "This is what I actually needed from you." And for him to say, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. I gave you exactly what you needed. You needed me to hurt you like that." It's how abusive relationships continue, right? But it's good. Because if I ever forget just how incredibly toxic the evangelical mindset is, I can look back on these memories and remind myself, like, oh yeah, evangelicals by definition need to be closed-minded. Evangelicals need to have at the forefront of their mind that they are right and that the world needs this message that they have. And to be open-minded is to endanger the truth that has been entrusted to them and them alone. That their circle, their inner circle, is the only correct circle, and God needs them to bring everybody from outside of that circle inside, no matter the cost. That's where I was. That's what I lived for so long. And I need to never forget where I came from and what it is that I need to fight against. So yeah, that's the most hurtful thing that a Christian has ever said to me. And that's the price of being vulnerable, right? You trust someone, you open up to them, they might hurt you. But hey, what doesn't kill you Local pastor, thanks again for asking this question. I'm glad that it's less, it's more, it was a more personally related question as opposed to the broader gay, atheist, queer experience. So I appreciate you just giving me this opportunity to talk about myself and one of my experiences with one of my relationships. I value that. So thank you all for listening to me with this more personal take on my experience. Really appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing you all here next time. But until then, don't forget, underneath our clothes, we are all naked. We'll see you next time.